because this is a cut, I will drag by the icon and throw it to my cuts bin, keeping everything nice and tidy. All right. And while we're there, let's open up the audio bin and double click on the Honda audio icon, Honda Valkyrie AIF. When I do that, it loads it up just like anything else into the source window. And what you see are these two black, furry, squiggly things, and these represent sound because they represent waveforms. Where it's very narrow, at like the beginning, there is no sound, and as it builds, you can see it gets louder and louder, and these things get the graphical representation of sound are bigger when it gets louder. There's a little quiet moment right about here. Notice on the left side it has an L and an R, meaning left channel, right channel. So this presumes a stereo file. I'll hit the space bar. You will now hear it play back.
It's the most powerful custom on the planet. 6 cylinders.
So that is the audio file. It's a 30-second, well, it's a little bit longer, 3018 because a little extra gap at the end here. It's a 30-second audio commercial. Here's the end.
The Valkyrie from Honda.
All right. There it goes. So 30, it's done. All right. So now, we'll use this audio as our cutting script because the announcer says some certain things. The music has certain rhythm and hits, and we're going to cut to that audio track. Now, down here on the timeline, there are two vertical columns essentially. The timeline itself with its different layers, A1, A2, A3, V1, which are blue, and if you click on any of them, they will light up, and so that makes those tracks active, all right? And you can deactivate them, so by turning them off, all right? Now, on the left side is a singular A1, which is the audio file that's in the source window currently. So anything on this vertical left column represents what is currently in the source window. If I were to double click any of these clips again, it will bring the clip there, and now you notice on the left side it says V1A1 because the clip has picture and it thinks it has sound, which in this case is silence. But nonetheless, it represents what's on the left side. Again, I'm going to reload the Honda Valkyrie, and this only has audio, has no picture, even though there is a visual representation of that audio up here in the source window. I want to put this and replace the A1, which has no sound, and I want to edit this down. So what I'm going to do is make my first edit. By moving this playhead all the way to the far left, as far as it'll go, bang it against the left side, and make sure the playhead of the sound is all the way to the beginning, to the left. I'm going to just make an edit now. In this case, I will put an I on this audio clip, and I'm going to click on the timeline to make sure it's blue. Notice this whole window's blue now. I hit another I there. And so I want the endpoint of the music to start on the endpoint of the timeline. That's what both I's. So you can decide that you can have up to 4 possible points: an endpoint on the timeline, an endpoint on the source element. All you need is 3 out of the 4 points. What I mean by that, I have an in on this source piece of music. I get to the end. I'll leave a little extra black. I'll mark an out. So now I have an in and out on the source music. I only have an in on where I want the beginning of that clip to start on the timeline. I don't need to mark the out because the duration is set by default with this 30 seconds at 18 frames. To bring and to edit this clip down into the timeline, I will put the A1 against the A1 here. I can move this by clicking and drag to A2 or A3 or any other track I put it. I can't put an audio file on the video track because it just doesn't make sense. So in this case, I will leave it at A1 to negate this audio and it will get rid of it actually, which is a good thing. To make an edit, the button, there's two ways to do it. One is right up here. There's what's called the insert button, and there's an overwrite button. We're going to do an overwrite button, and the icon tells me that the actual shortcut is a period. It's not, it's just showing the quotation marks to show you the thing, but it's a comma to insert or a period to overwrite. This time I will use, if I click on this button, it will just bring it down and edit that in. To undo anything, just like you would on any Mac computer, you hold Command button, hit the letter Z right above it. That will undo it. So to learn my shortcut, if I go to my keyboard, hit the period, it'll do the exact same thing. All right, so it brought the whole clip down, and wherever it ended on the timeline is 3018, which is the duration of that thing. So it can't put down more than what you tell it to do. It does exactly what you tell it to do. So now, if I hit this, go to the beginning, hit the space bar, I can now hear the music and see, I can hear music and see the picture at the same time. We've made our first edit. Now these little waveform images are kind of useful. Why can't I see it down here on the timeline? You can. You just need to turn it on. And you follow this A1 track. We have just edited the A1 onto A1. It did not take out the picture because there's no picture to replace it with. So it leaves it there. Now, this little black area here to the right of the letter S is actually a invisible button, if you will. If I double click here, it will now expand the A1 and it will show me the waveform. Only the top half of it, but it's the same idea. Left channel, right channel, there it is. All right. Okay, so now we've put our audio edit down. Now is to do our first picture edit. I mean, we did lay down this first shot, so our second picture edit, I should say. So as I played now, you're saying, why is this so tiny right here and have all the space opened up here on the timeline? Well, okay, that's just a default situation. If I want to expand this and take up the entire space here, the shortcut is the backslash button on your keyboard, which is the button to the upper right above the return button on your keyboard. Look at it, and it has a vertical line and a angled line pointing kind of back. It's called backslash because it's kind of pointing to the left. You click on that button and it will expand the touch to almost fill the whole thing. You can also do that with the slider on the bottom here. If I push it to the left, it will expand it. If I push it to the right, it will decrease it in size. Okay? So to see the entire thing, I can just hit the backslash and it'll bring it back. The same thing happens if you hit either the plus button on the keyboard, and that will zoom in, and hit the minus button, it will zoom out. Okay? Wherever the playhead is situated. So I'll put the playhead down here. If I hit the plus, it will zoom in at that point there, and it'll zoom out at that point there. Again, to reset, hit the backslash, it brings everything back into a nice space. Okay, so let's listen to what we've edited here.
It's the most powerful.
Now, what I am going to recommend, hear that sound? It's a nice kind of sustained note right there. I'm going to zoom in on this part of the timeline by hitting the plus sign. And if I use my left or right arrows on my keyboard, I can increment one frame at a time. It's what I'm calling the tearing sound. There's the beginning of it. I want to mark this position on my timeline as where the next edit will go, picture-wise. So I hit the letter I and mark that as, it marks an endpoint. I'm going to lay it a little bit long. As you can see, I already laid the first shot long, intentionally.
It's the most powerful custom.
After he says the word powerful,
Most powerful custom.
It doesn't matter exactly where you stop it, but I hit the space bar to stop, and I hit the letter O to mark it out. I'm defining that this is going to be the duration, at least for now, of the next edit. So now I will have to find a shot worthy to be the second edit. So I think I'm going to try this shot here, which I know is where he comes barreling in here. Okay, let's say I like this shot a lot. And I'm going to drag this back and use my incremental left arrow to go to the frame right before, here's to the right, and I go left one. There's the frame right before the tire comes in. So I'm going to go right there. Mark this as the in. Again, so I have an in point of the new shot that's coming in, the first frame of it, and I have an in point and an out point on my timeline for how long the shot will be put into the timeline. I like to keep limits to keep things a little bit more under control rather than just keep throwing a lot of things down. And now here's the tricky thing, is that I know that on the left side here it says has V1 and A1, though as I've shown there really is no audio connected to this clip, so I'm going to turn that off by clicking on it. When you click it on, it goes on, click it again, it goes off, and it's what's called a toggle, on, off, just like a light switch in your house. So it's off now, so therefore it will not bring in the audio, which is no audio, into this timeline with the music, which I've put down here. So I'm only want to bring picture V1 and put it on V1 itself. I'm not dragging this down. I'm going to make an edit. Again, the shortcut to make an edit, an overwrite edit, is the period. I hit the period and now it completes that function. And now I have a new shot here. And you see where the vertical lines are where the cuts are made. All right? So here we go. Let's go to the beginning, hit the space bar.
It's the most powerful custom on the...
So that's pretty good. I like that quite a bit. So now we've made the edits. Now, just to show what would happen if you didn't do it this way, I go Command Z, puts me back to the position I was right before. And if I left the A1 turned on here on the left side and made the same edit, what will happen is it brings silence. So there it is. So by bringing in no sound, it actually replaces no sound where there was sound, which is essentially almost the same thing as erasing the sound, because nothing is still something. Zero sound here from the clip has replaced what was the music track, okay? So Command Z to undo that. I deselect the A1, make the edit again by hitting period, and now I'm back where it's supposed to be. I can see the waveform of the sound. Now, since the rest of this, the sound work is pretty much done, I want to protect this so I don't make that mistake again. And to do that, I'm going to padlock the A1 track. By clicking on the little padlock, locks it, and now you see it has all the little diagonal lines through it. Now it's protected. If I try doing that again and put something down with sound, it will not affect it. It's impervious to additional changes. So I can leave that off, I can leave it on, it doesn't matter, okay? So now, your trick is to now continue editing this and to just add more edits.
It's the most
And I'm going to go mark an in for powerful.
powerful custom on the planet.
I go a little bit more than I need, most powerful, and I went from a tight studio shot to a blistering action shot. I want a powerful looking shot. So you can decide what shot you want. I'm going to play with this one. I love all the shakiness. It's like it's so powerful you can't keep your eyes on it. I'm going to hit this, hit the period, and there we go. I got 3 shots now.
It's the most powerful custom on the planet.
Okay. You could probably do better. All right. So I'm going to stop here, and we'll pick up on the next tutorial.